to a friend of ours, and thank you. And life proceeded to transform itself. It's interesting. You know, we had over 10,000 people join the company in North America last month. 11,400 joined it the month before. The only sad thing about that statistic is how many people would join and quit without ever understanding what was happening around them. And you know, we live in an era of increasing mediocrity. And it is becoming more and more difficult to believe, for people to believe that great things can happen to them. It's really a challenging thing. As we settle in more and more to an entitlement culture, you know, it weakens us. It debilitates us, character-wise. It debilitates us in our mentality, worst of all. Now, Mother Teresa said, I don't so much minister to the poor, meaning in terms of poverty. She says, the real challenge is to minister to the poor in spirit. And and so as we sat back there, we looked at each other and we were both thinking the same thing, as just, you talked about being a mechanical engineer in the power business and healthcare and a tax preparer and standing up here and you say, I'm kind of excited, I've always kind of been interested in this stuff. And, you know, and I remember when I was there, you know, when that was happening. And I have to admit, this is a real nice experience for us, just to be here in an office. We never do this anymore. And I didn't realize I missed it until I came around you guys. You know, it just felt a little bit weird. I mean, we have, I don't know, a couple thousand offices and spread out over North America, and all these wonderful folks, and it's a special thing. It's a special thing to have a chance to participate in people's lives, you know, at a personal level, at a family level, and it sounds maybe a little trite, certainly perhaps cliche. It really is a privilege to participate in people's dreams. You know, and I'm grateful for the people that took our dreams seriously, you know, when we were starting out in the business. You know, opportunity is one thing, but lots of people come through opportunity and miss it. You know, but I'm grateful for the mentorship that we receive, the instruction that we receive. You know, and I mean, in a sense, we have two tasks to do with each other in the business. One, to impart knowledge to people. And now I'm talking about it from a team standpoint. Our task in leadership is to impart knowledge to our teammates. Your task then is, and our second task with you is to help you learn how to teach that to somebody else. So you've got to come to the point where you know what you're doing. And then two, you've got to come to the point, if you want to be ever successful at any level, you've got to become a leader. And our task then is to help you become a leader. And the heart of leadership is to become a great teacher. In our world, anyway. And so, it's an interesting thing. You know, maybe I can just take a few minutes to give you kind of the current perspective from 50,000 feet, you know, of the company and what's happening for us right now. And then maybe we can just take a couple of minutes and do a little bit of, if you have a question you want to ask. If it's a really dumb question, we'll vote on it. But I won't want you to know how everybody's voting, so we'll do a secret ballot. Okay, so here's how the secret ballot is. You no vote, you can't tell that way. Just cover it up. However you're voting. Anyway, all kidding aside, you know, the company's up about 40% this year over last year, over the same period of time.
Business volume?
Production, recruiting's up over 20% again over last year, which was again a record year. And we were up 25% production last year over the year before. We're up about 22% over the year before over the year. You understand, 22, 25, and about 40% growth so far. Most of our world is mentoring giants, or people we have determined giants to be. So I have very few conversations with people in the business that are making less than $500,000 a year. And all kinds of people that are making a whole bunch more than that. We mentor about 50 leaders that will be $1 million earners in the next 6 to 12 months. And that will go with all the other ones that are there. You know, and it has been a privilege. But you miss something when you're just working at that level. But that's our task, is to try and impact people who then in turn impact hundreds or thousands of people with their leadership. That is, I think, common sense, the best way we can multiply our efforts and our knowledge of how to do it. You know, there are lots of people who can teach you how our products work. You know, but I've got to show you how do you effectively lead a team of 5,000 licensed people. You know, and take it to 10,000. You know, and experiences like that. And there are only a handful of us that have been involved at that level in the business to do that work. It's fun work, but it's great to look into your faces right now. Now I look into a lot of faces at the convention, but it's hard to remember all their names. Okay. As cute as that is, ultimately it's important to remember it's your responsibility to make sure I remember your name. Understand, from a performance standpoint. It's my wife studies the numbers even more closely than I do. And she's constantly pointing out who's doing what, where, who's rising, who's slipping a little bit, those kinds of things. But it's fun to take a guy like Eric Colson. Sat down with Eric in December of 2012, and we had a conversation about his business, had some follow-up conversations over the next several months. You know, told him it's time to kind of re-engineer what he was doing, how he was doing it. And he made $54,000 in December of 2012, which is still pretty exciting, right? For a guy who was 29. And, but he made $160,000 in December of 2013. You know, and so understanding what you're doing in the business is important. On how you orchestrate those things. You know, you can have a vision. Now, you're an engineer. I have the sometimes questionable privilege of having probably recruited more engineers into financial services than any human being on the planet. Which, if you understand engineers, that means I'm self-abusive. So many electrical engineers in Silicon Valley where we started our business, you know, I mean, just engineers are joining by the hundreds. And in particular, Chinese engineers, which is like double jeopardy. You know, the first time I sat down with a Chinese engineer, he had actually taken a prospectus of the mutual fund we were going to discuss and had highlighted the thing from beginning to end. He had read stuff I had not read, and proceeded to say, I want to ask you, and I have some questions to ask you. And he started at page 1, 130-page pamphlet, and I was near suicidal when we finished. And I had decided that I was going to do that one time in my career. But I was determined to get it over with. And it was a wonderful thing, and a wonderful instruction and patience. And now I look at the Chinese, Malaysian, and you talk about Chinese from various parts of the world, and they're extraordinary performers in this company. I'll give you a weather vane whether a company's for real. And you should check how many Chinese IT people are in it. Because if there are a whole bunch of them in it, the products are for real. These are the most analytical people by culture and training on the face of the earth. And I do not say that disrespectfully. I say it respectfully. You know, while I'm not them and am grateful not to be that analytical. Otherwise, I don't think I'd have any peace. But the reality is, you know, when they're done going through your products, your investment products, these kinds of things, and give it a what is it, 4 or 5 star Yelp, whatever Yelp goes up to, 5 star, you're in good shape. You're in good shape. You know, we were reflecting on something. Some of our investment guys, I'm also on the board at Transamerica Financial Advisors, and we were talking about the average rate of return the S&P has earned, you know, last 20 years or something. And, you know, it was up over, 30% last year. It was up the year before, down the year before that. You know, these kinds of things as it does what it does. And you're taking that average. And when you take the average, and let's say the average is 10% over that period of time, do you know what the average consumer earns in the market over that same period of time?
-4.
And it's not quite that bad, but it's less than half. Why? Why? Part of it is that they don't know what they're doing, but it's, what did you say? Emotion is another big part of it too. Those two things, combination of ignorance, which contributes to emotional swing. Right? So when the downs hit and they don't pay attention, here's the way people are, most people are. Things are going up, they're all excited, right? And they jump in. But here's what we don't understand emotionally. Making money does not feel good as losing money feels bad. When you're making money, you're good, but you're not thinking about it much. You're just glad it's happening. When you're losing money, you can't get your mind off of it. Is that right? Is that a fair statement for most people? Do you stay awake at night because your money's making money? No, you stay awake at night when your money's losing money. That hits you right here in the gut and wakes you up in the middle of the night and won't let you go back to sleep. You know, and that's why uniquely, when you talk about the money side of our business, an overwhelming amount of our focus is protecting from the downside. Now, why are we so hypersensitive to that in Transamerica's operation compared to Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch? These are all remarkable companies, but why are we so hypersensitive to that? You want to take a shot at it?
We're dealing with personal.
Take it one step further. What were you going to say?
We're dealing with personal friends.
That would, yes, that would have to have impacted some. Hopefully we'd teach the person, we'd have the person we just met, we'd feel just the same way about the person we just met as we would about family. That's a little naive, because family's family. That guy's not showing up at Thanksgiving dinner, staring at us across the table. Or having his pride, having him down 20%, right? You mentioned because of the market we serve. Let's take that one step further. We are the market we serve. I moved my wife in my mobile home when we got married. And that's where we started. We are the market we serve. So now we go back to the golden rule. This is what we would have done unto us. And so we're not sitting in the skyscrapers in New York looking down at the people that are this big thinking they are ants. We're the ants that are building a company. That's why we don't charge you $6,000. It's not how we'd want to do it. At the end of the day, you've got to understand this is completely a grassroots movement. We're not raiding the industry, hoping to get a whole bunch of industry guys that are already licensed. We think you can overcome that handicap coming in with licenses. The good news is you really aren't one of those people. You deal with the average person and their stuff and what they don't know. We earn half the rate of what the market does because nobody's sitting there educating us. Nobody's talked to us about some of these things. And most of the products aren't designed with the down in mind. So you take IUL as a concept, Index Universal Life. What is one of the very best features about Index Universal Life?
Floor.
0% floor.
Yeah, market's down 40%, what's IUL down?
Zero.
Now you throw the tax service status, and that's my two favorites. Right? You wrap money with a life insurance contract, you can grow it tax-free your entire life and use it. Anytime the word tax and free are put together, I actually almost get aroused. True story. This stuff turns me on. My wife turns me on, and tax-free turns me on. Especially in this culture, right? And you take those things and you give it a floor. What a wonderful thing to talk about, the word guarantee, when it comes to people's savings. Then you take some of the other stuff that we do, and what is called lowering volatility, or protecting people from it. I remember when I sat down over some of the stuff that we had coming into the portfolio that I didn't even believe was possible. The technology has changed the game. We have one investment advisor, for example, that measures 80 to 120 market indicators a day. And it used to be they measured them like that in a quarter, because that's how long it'd take to do it, quantitatively. And now they're doing it daily. And so he looks like he's Harry Potter with a wand and some incantations, and it's just good business. And it's super conservative, and yet he's performed almost with the S&P at 1/10 of the risk. This stuff is cool. It's fun to talk about to people. It's fun to be proud of what you're doing. Now, Frank said you were awesome. You knocked it out of the park, and various other positive adjectives. And you said something, so someone said it about talking from the heart, meaning what you said.
Absolutely.
People worry about being a good public speaker. Should I have taken classes? Should I take, yeah, but there's a group, Toastmasters, and study Dale Carnegie or something. I've never done any of that. Now, I've studied people who are good at delivering a message and figured out what I could learn from watching them. But you know what you need to be? You need to have to be an effective speaker? Conviction. Conviction. And be upbeat. Not Tony Robbins. That's never been me, never will be. It's not hardly anybody. All you need is conviction and be upbeat. Be pleasant. What do you need to be effective with people? Strength of character. Right? So that you can be trusted. Then be nice to them. Everybody loves, you can go into a bookstore and read hundreds of books on all this stuff, tens of thousands of pages. Just be trustworthy and be nice to them. Mike, does that make sense?
Yes.
Pretty simple, isn't it? We confuse ourselves sometimes. What's the number one measurement of a person's character? Overwhelmingly, doesn't matter how much talent they have or don't have by anybody's perception, what is the absolute indicator of a person's character?
Sincerity?
Honest.
Genuine?
Honest.
All these are good answers, but let's put it in a practical sense.
Be sober.
Okay, I like that answer too.
Do the right thing when we looking.
All of those are correct. That's the definition of integrity, right, Don? Just think about this. The number one reflection of whether we got it or not. We profess great faith or religion or any kinds of things. How we treat other people. That's it. You get somebody who tells you he's the greatest Christian on the planet, and he berates people and talks down to them, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what faith the person professes. It's not taking action in their hearts. We measure character by how we treat other people. You ever had a bad day treating other people where you didn't do very good? I have. I got it down more to moments now than days, and I'm grateful for that. There are times where I'll say something, and I'm apologizing in the next breath, you know? Because I know I made a mistake. I didn't treat somebody right. I was arrogant or short or impatient. None of those things work very well. So if you want to be an effective leader, you need to be able to be trustworthy, and you need to be nice to them. We have built our career on that. And my wife is nicer than I am. And a better person. And you know I mean it, because you can tell. So how are you guys doing? You still okay? Sorry you showed up, huh? You know, what's this have to do with business? Everything. Business is business, you know, this life is a life of relationships. And we go from there. Let me talk to you about, I go back to that thing I said I was going to talk about, the kind of 50,000 feet. You know, we participated in building the first company we were in, it sold to Citigroup in '89. We stuck around a couple more years and broke up and formed World Marketing Alliance, which we then sold to Transamerica in 2001, June of 2001. Paperwork was signed. I was the last guy to sign. And then we began a process of acclimating to, you know, this new corporate relationship now. Understand, we've been in business with the Transamerica companies for over a decade at that point. That's kind of how we fell in love with each other, that we thought it would make sense. You get a distribution system, a marketing company like ours to a certain size, it just needs extra resources. You need to spend $15 million on technology. You need to do this, you need to do that. And having a big partner really made sense. But boy, you've got to get the right one. First one we had, Citigroup, was just not for us. I was sitting at the table with the chairman of Citigroup at an event at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. And he was pretty drunk, and I wasn't. I don't believe it. I don't drink at all, but I never did believe in drinking when you're around your team and people. It seldom brings out the best. And it was our tradition in the company, if you have a group of people, you have 500 people together, you'd recognize about 100 of them, at least 20%. Okay. And he was brought a list that had 100 names on it. And he said, I'm not going to say all of those. There were 10 categories, 10 names in each. And the person said, well, what do you want to do? He said, I'll do the top one in each group. And so he said the first one, but it was our tradition also, the founder of our company would stand there and Paul make you feel like a hero for a couple of minutes talking about you, especially if you were number one in the category. And our people were used to that. So the first one comes up, gets recognized, and this guy doesn't even look at it,
Oh.
right? Someone else hands him the award, and he was pretty perceptive, and he just went and sat down. Next guy stood up there for just about 10, 15 seconds, kind of looking around, waiting for something, like he'd forgotten something, or like something else was missing, and then he went and sat down. Third guy was less perceptive, and he actually stood there, kind of staring at him expectantly. And it was interesting because I was about as far away from him as from here to that door. And I was looking at him, and you know, he's sweating, he's drunk, and he's like looking at, kind of peering at the thing like a person that's had too much to drink, trying to read through blurry eyes, and then he catches him out of the corner of his eye, I could tell, and he kind of glanced halfway over and then looked back down at the name, and then he realized the guy was still standing there. He wasn't processing real fast. That's another real benefit of alcohol in your life. And he turns to the guy and he goes, "You need something?" The guy goes, "No." He says, "Sit down then." Is that a great moment? And I leaned over to my wife, and she leaned over to me, and I said, "We're out of here." That's all I needed to see. Character. Character. When you stop to think about it, there really aren't any big shots. We all have weaknesses, and we all have strengths. Some make more money than others, but those people have weaknesses too, and they have strengths. Few of us are in an environment where our strengths become emphasized and our weaknesses are diminished. This is the kind of environment I hope is built in this office. It's one we try and strive to build in the company. We want you to believe more than you believe. And we want you to think bigger than you think. We want you to believe more is possible than you believe is possible. And we say, "Well, I don't have the upbringing. My family doesn't have anything. I'm poor. I'm a woman. I'm black. I'm Latino. I'm whatever." Right? I'm Chinese. in an American culture, right? Challenges that presents. English is a second language, third language, 10th language, whatever it is. You know, and people box themselves in. And we do enough of that, nobody needs to limit us. We do that all on our own. Overwhelmingly, that's true. Cindy was reading a book on the airplane. She showed me a story of two young Latino women that were in Nebraska. And they were in school, and when they went in to see, they wanted to go to college, and both wanted to go to college, and when they went in to see their counselor, the counselor said, "You don't need to take the SAT or the ACT. You're not going to go to college." Basically, he said something wonderful as recorded in the story, that they said, "You're basically going to go have babies," which is, wow, right? So they came home pretty discouraged. Fortunately, they had, anybody know who Guillermo Haro is in our company?
Yes.
I picture their brother looking like Guillermo Haro when we were reading the story. And a big kind of tough older brother, and he says, that ain't happening. Went back down to school with him and kind of leaned over the counselor and said, "They're gonna take this test." And the counselor said, "Yeah, I guess they are." And they both did very well and went on and got their degrees and built great lives. But a lot of people would have allowed that stuff to stop them. What do you allow to stop you? What excuses are you making for yourself? Don, maybe you and I'd say, "Well, we're too old to go do something great." That's nonsense. We're the best we've ever been in so many ways. Not on a basketball court. In the business world, I'm drawing my guns faster than I've ever drawn. You say, "Well, my parents never had anything." come from a long line of not having much. Well, so did I. My parents would have never had a home had we not built it for them. They were still in their mobile home. I finally talked them out of it. But identity is a powerful thing. I took my mom and dad and we went looking for homes when I'm moving closer to where we live. And we were looking at homes, started out at the simplest, humblest thing, the roof was sagging and, you know, that kind of thing. And then we finished up with this really nice house, beautiful backyard, a spa, you know, a recently built home, nicely appointed, you know, not huge, like 3,200 square feet, but a nice place, right? Nice place. I'm thinking, and I'm ready to write a check for the place, whichever one they pick. And I'm sure they're gonna love the last one, right? And so we finish and we go back to our place and I go, Mom, Dad, what do you think? Which one do you want? And they go, the first one. I said, seriously? It smells. I mean, it had one of those old stoves with the stuff had built up about that thick underneath the bed, and you know that guy, and off they went home, and I'm like, what just happened? You know, but I understand identity is a powerful thing. What you think you deserve, what you don't think you deserve. So the next day I'm sitting in front of that home with my builder. And we're looking at the house and he's like, we're sitting in his truck and he goes, well, maybe we could prop that up, he says. And then he's just silent again. And we're both looking at it. I said, knock it down. He says, great idea. And so we just took it out of the option. We just knocked the sucker down. And then asked my parents what they wanted to put there. So I got him with an architect and we got a fairly decent home built. But it's crazy. I had to knock down the house before I could get him to do it. I said, either you're going to be there laying on the ground or you're going to build a house here. Crazy. It's funny how we do that. So you know, the thing you've got to do is give yourself a chance to grow. Give yourself a chance to increase in your conviction about something. Don't write yourself off so easy. You have tremendous capacity to learn. You may have stopped learning a while ago. That means you can't start again. Sound like I'm about to launch into a sermon right now, but I'm going to stop that one. I have had the good fortune and blessing, and our family has, to have been strategically placed in a couple of companies when the magic started. When everything gels, the pieces fall into place, the leadership is right, the support is right, the resources are there, the market is there, the products are just right, and it goes boom,